everyone, to our Parrot Stars podcast. My name is Avery, and I work at Parrot Stars. I'm here with my manager, Alexis. Hello.
Hello.
It's my first intro, so that's exciting. Give me some, just bear with me here as I blunder through this. But we are here today because we are talking about a topic that we're both very passionate about. Mm-hmm. And of course, everyone at Parrot Stars, we stand firm with our beliefs. We'll be talking about wing clipping for parrots in captivity. So that's what we'll be going through today. Mm-hmm. I guess just to kind of start off, though, I guess there's no more news.
There is news. We had Mark from the African Gray Journal.
We didn't cover
over.
that. And
yes.
I guess we didn't talk about Florida, but we don't need to do that either. But before we dive into the actual topic of the episode, just a little bit about what's going on at Parrot Stars. Mm-hmm. We did have a very special guest that visited the store just recently.
Yeah, so we had Mark Prudin, who is the host of the African Gray Journal, which is a great YouTube channel, come out to Parrot Stars, and gosh, could not have been a nicer guy. Came with his fiance.
Was really nice.
They were phenomenal. They were so nice, and we just nerded out on all things parrot for an entire day.
That's cool.
He had done a tour of a store in New Jersey. I think it's Todd Marcus Exotics. He did a tour of that store, and he had called us and said that he was looking to come in and film a tour of Parrot Stars and have it be like a real genuine experience where he just comes in. So we didn't need to do anything special. So we watched the video and the tour that he did of the Todd Marcus bird store. And I was like, this is super nice of him that he's gonna come and create this tour of Parrot Stars.
Yeah, I know.
See what we're all about. So yeah, he came in and spent the day doing basically a start to finish experience of what you'd anticipate at Parrot Stars. So we did do it a little different because of the person I am. I'm like, well, you're all the way here from New York. I'm going to take you around and explain everything to you. So It was mostly a guided tour for the first half of his day, just because the nature of Parrot Stars is that if you come in and nobody talks to you the whole time, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
So we were able to kind of walk him through all the things we do and let him meet all of the different resident birds we have and then all the different species we have in the store at the moment. And it was really cool because he told me a lot of the species he had not ever had the experience of seeing, let alone holding.
I overheard him talking when he first came in. He was saying to... Was his girlfriend or fiance? Fiance. It was like, you're going to see birds that you've probably never seen before in your life. And he was talking about how he hasn't. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's nice. Sometimes we take that for granted. All the time.
Yeah.
We take that for granted.
Yeah.
There's a red-tailed black cockatoo just sitting in the room. We're like, that's...
preening the hyacinth macaw. That's next to
they're
it.
out like best friends forever. They're out there, and we're just like, yeah, that's cute. And then we go about our business.
Yeah, I did totally have that moment when we walked into the baby room, and he's got to see the hyacinth and the red tail.
Oh my gosh.
I did. It is refreshing to have these conversations with people that don't frequent the store, just aren't us, who we always get to talk to each other, but people who are experiencing it for the first time. It does give me a sense of gosh, this is pretty stinking cool that we get to do this every single day.
It gives you that kind of feeling in your stomach. It's like you start to get, worked up because that is a red-tailed black cockatoo,
cuddling
a little baby
on your shoulder.
That's just the sweetest thing in the world. On top of how absolutely gorgeous of an animal it is, it's cool. So he gave that awesome perspective.
Yep, it was. And he asked phenomenal questions. And I think it went really well because the way that we kind of approached each topic gave me an opportunity to share our philosophies on a lot of different aspects of what we do. Like today's topic of the episode, why we keep everybody fully flighted,
Yes.
our approach to selling birds, our philosophy on selling birds, and incentivizing people to think through long-term life decisions and commitments to their companion parrots, our philosophy on the adoption and surrender side of things, the breeding, all of that. So it was a really cool opportunity. And it's fun to have those conversations with people so it's cool because he has a lot of experience with parrots. I mean, he said he's had parrots since he was a little kid, and he kind of got started in a really similar way to how I did. And you go off on these different trajectories, and people offer such unique points of view and life stories. So the questions that he was asking were really great, and it was just a fun day to talk about parrot stars in a way that was with somebody that has seen a lot of other examples of bird stars and has a different perspective and point of view. So it was just really, really fun. And he was giving me some suggestions and feedback on how to get our African grays to start breeding more.
Really?
Yeah, he's got experience with that. And our African grays are doing a whole lot of nothing in Florida right now. So I was like, tell me all your secrets.
Hey, that's all right. That's okay.
But yeah, so he was so nice. He did a challenge while he was at the store. So he's going to do 2 videos coming out of Parrot Stars. So one of them is going to be the tour of Parrot Stars. And then the other one is that he did a shopping challenge to reach or to spend $1,000 on his birds.
Oh, yeah.
And so he went around and got $1,000 worth of merchandise.
I know.
For his birds. I mean, it was really awesome. And I'm really grateful. And I think it'll be a really phenomenal opportunity for people to see all the different products and things that they could be doing for enrichment for their birds. And he picked out some really, really cool stuff, a lot of versatile stuff. And that was kind of fun too, because he does have that insider experience and information on picking really diverse options. So
I know.
I'm excited for all this stuff that he picked to be highlighted.
He does have that experience and perspective because he was kind of highlighting the different uses for each of our products, which was cool because that's another means of like education for people out there. He even bought, I forget what he bought. It doesn't matter, but he even bought stuff for Maria.
Oh my gosh, I know. He's so nice.
She came up to me and he was like, he just asked me what I wanted. And I was like, I guess. And then he bought it. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool.
So he asked Maria if she wanted something for her parrot, what would it be? And she took him over to this really cool net that we have that's like a canopy net, but it's designed for small parrots. He's like, okay, great, and picked it up and put it in the cart. He's like, I'll get it for you, and literally bought it, and then was like so adamant at checkout. I'm like, are you sure? Like she gets an employee discount.
Yeah, I know.
He goes, nope, I bought it for her. Do not send that to me. It is for Maria. And I'm like, oh my God, that was so nice.
Yeah, he seemed really nice.
Yeah, it's just awesome. And again, I'm grateful because his mission is so similar to ours in that he's just offering this as educational content for people to take and to do as they want with it. And there's no other motivation or ulterior motive to why he's doing it. He's just going around and sharing his experience and getting experience and perspectives of other bird people and putting it out there for people to enjoy and learn from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, anybody that wants to just like talk about parrots in a non-threatening and generous way, like let's do it.
That is always nice if it's a positive.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it's Mark Prudin.
Yes, the African Gray Journal on YouTube. So if you guys haven't, I recommend that you guys subscribe to his channel because he's got some really, really great stuff posted already and some really cool videos coming up in the works. Yeah. And then for those of you who have not seen Parrot Stars, it'll be a really cool tour of the store.
Yeah.
When we actually
I'm excited to watch it, see what it kind of,
I mean, I don't know if he strategically planned it, but I'm like, you could not have picked a better time where we have hyacinth, a red-tailed, the palm, and the blue eclectus. Because there's not always a guarantee. Like the hyacinth is sold. He's not going to be around here for much longer. The red-tail, who knows how long she's going to be with us. So he timed it perfectly to be able to see all the really cool species.
A lot of cool birds.
So.
Yeah, a lot of cool birds there.
And then also you got to come to our breeding program in Florida this past month.
Yes.
So that was really exciting.
That was exciting.
So we're going to be doing a whole episode on our bird breeding program because I think a lot of people have questions and would like to know a little bit more about that half of what we do at Parrot Stars is where do all these birds that we have for people to see come from and offer a little bit more insight and transparency. And so
yes. I think that's really important. That's one of the biggest things coming into this when I was hired that I wanted to push because how do I want to word it? A lot of times the storefront is the icing over like mud. You know, not to be like gloomy.
Yeah, but, and it's not all bird stores. There's some really not. Ethical places.
There's a lot of places out there that really do try their best and they have really good practices. But that I'd like to think that that's what we do, and it's great to be transparent so people do get the full workaround of that we do care, and our breeding facility is pristine, and every bird is treated like royalty, basically. And I was really impressed because that was my first perspective, and I showed up and I was like, wow, this is actually nice. This is really nice, and the birds look so healthy, and they look so happy, you know, and it's sunny, which is always helpful.
Got blessed with good weather.
I know.
When I was there in January of last year, it was like between 48 and 52 and rainy like the whole time, and I was like, Avery, pack warm clothes. It's going to be miserable.
I was prepared for that. I was like, you know, I'm going to go down there. Going to be like like crappy Midwest weather.
Yep.
But no, it's gorgeous.
It was so nice. It was like 79 and sunny like almost the entire time. So got lucky with good weather. But because of that, we did get to see the birds in the sunlight and get to see the difference in feather quality and just overall like look of how they look when they're kept outdoors. And it is.
Oh, yeah. And just, yeah.
It's hard to explain. I think that's something I always talk to people about, like, when they come into the store and they're really impressed, I always remind them, like, keep in mind if you expose the bird to the UV light and you get to see them, like, at our breeding program, you can't describe it.
There's like, I always hate being that type of person of like, I don't know the word to describe it. Like, well, not so much that. It's like the aura, you know, and I always hate saying that kind of stuff, but it is true. There's like an aura about the birds that is like, yeah, it's so natural. This is great. Yeah.
So
anyways.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more information. Then we can share a little bit more detail in our future episode about the breeding program, about kind of what we do. But that was a really fun thing that happened this last month. That's true.
I guess I don't want to say too much about it.
Too many spoilers. Just a little teaser.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll transition into this episode. So we've kind of teased about the fact that we've wanted to do an entire episode dedicated to this topic because we wanted to make sure we were able to talk about it fully and not just brush past it.
Right.
So we wanted to talk about wing trimming in a way that was approachable for people to hear and not intimidating or really kind of like aggressive.
Yeah, off-putting.
In a way that we're just going to state our points of view and other veterinarian points of view that are like it's available information on the internet that people can read and make decisions for themselves. But I want to just take a little time to explain my background and my point of view on the wing trims because I don't ever want to come from a place of I'm the end all be all source of parrot information. I am learning just as much as everybody that's listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Same.
Every single day is new information. And I think I've been very lucky that I've been put in a position where I've had so many opportunities to learn from people who know more than me and have been able to offer incredible insight and points of view that were something I had never considered and have allowed me to help get to a point where I feel really good about the decisions that we make as a team at Parrot Stars. So in the beginning, like when I was growing up, I always had parrots in my house and their wings were always trimmed. This is just like not even something that I really thought deeply about. Don't even know if when I was growing up, I had a real point of view or position on it. It just was what it was. I just accepted it as fact that this is what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, my parents were pretty darn invested in our birds, and they had a lot of enrichment, and they were real social. They were out and about with us all the time in the household. So it wasn't something that I perceived as negative or bad. It just was something that they did in order to, quote unquote, keep the birds safe. And that was what they did. And they did it as part of the nail trims when they take them to the vet to get groomed. So when we started breeding the green cheeks and the parrotlets when I was younger, and we'd go and sell them at the bird store or at the bird fairs, it was the same philosophy. Like we would trim the wings for safety, like so that the birds didn't escape. And I will be totally transparent, like the way that we talked about it to people. And then now this was 15 years ago, so it was a while ago, but it was with the thought and understanding that if you are going to try to create a relationship with the bird, if you're not having to chase it around the house, it should help kind of center the focus a little bit. So we did talk about it in terms of safety and trainability. Mm-hmm. And that was something that came like kind of carried over to the philosophies that we had when we first opened Parrot Stars.
Right.
And at that time, and again, not to pass judgment, because a lot of these people that offered us a lot of advice and recommendations are like phenomenal and have really changed their points of view in the last 7 to 8 years since we started. But the same thing, how are you ever going to have a parrot store where people come in and out on a busy road, like they go in and out of the doors? How are you going to have a parrot store where you don't clip wings because they need their wings clipped to be safe, like to stop them from flying outside, to stop them from crashing into the windows? So we were trimming wings when we first opened, and I'll fast forward through year 1. It was also at that time the most volume of babies that I had worked with. So when we were breeding at my parents' house when I was a teenager, like it was a clutch of green cheeks, a clutch of parrotlets. I think like the most we ever had record babies at one time was 11. And I was like, 11 is so much. Yeah. Like I thought it was so much work. And so I just didn't have this like huge sample size of babies that I was working with.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden I'm working with larger species that I'm spending a lot of intimate time with. At that time, it was only me doing the hand feeding. My mom was helping a little bit. But I was seeing these personalities and these birds develop from when they were super tiny all the way up until when I was trimming their wings and then allowing them to go home. And it was starting to like kill me. I couldn't watch anymore how much their personalities would change the minute we would trim their wings. And again, this conversation is meant to just be my honest truth and my experience. And hopefully people listening learn from it and don't take it as me telling people exactly what to do, although I believe strongly and I more or less am going to try to tell you what to do. But yeah, it's meant to be, and it's not meant to be a sad, sappy story. And I don't want to induce, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to induce a ton of guilt if this is the first time somebody's hearing an honest conversation about wing trimming. So if you have or you are currently trimming your bird's wings and you're trying to decide whether or not you should, I just don't want to have anybody feel unnecessary guilt, because the benefit is that their feathers always grow back and you can always do better in the future. So when we're talking about wing trims, we're talking about the trimming of flight feathers, never clipping of the actual bone or physical structure of the bird. It is simply a trim of the feathers. And it's usually the outermost primary flight feathers that are getting trimmed. So when your bird tucks its wings back, it's usually the longer feathers that are sticking out at the end that are going to be trimmed. And the idea is to slow the bird down and remove height. So when we were trimming wings, we weren't doing extreme clips where we're just totally inhibiting flight. We were just trying to slow them down and prevent them from being able to gain any height. But I was in a position where I was now hand feeding multiple species, and each species was fledging at different rates. Little birds fledge at like 6 weeks. Bigger birds sometimes take up to 2 months before they're starting to get mobile. And it was really fun because all of a sudden you'd be feeding them and then you'd see them take their first flight. And it's hard to describe if you've not seen it, but it's like a really important and special moment in their development.
Yeah, this is huge for their life cycle. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to try not to get emotional. But basically, like, you're seeing them learn, and they're so smart, and it's such a huge moment for them in the wild where they're gaining a little sense of independence.
Yes.
Their parents are still supporting them when they're learning to fly. It's how they're going to start to learn to forage and eat on their own. So it becomes this huge developmental marker for their growth mentally and physically.
Exactly.
And often what I was seeing is that around that time of when they were fledging would be when I start to see true personality traits start to come out. The goofiness, the silliness, the excitement of them wanting to come back to me to feed again or for companionship. And it was a really, really wonderful experience. And what was starting to happen is I was getting attached to them. I was seeing all of this excitement and emotion. And then because of just the system we had in place around after they'd fledged and basically weaned, we would do that initial wing trim. And again, it just is what it is. When we would do that, the change in their personality was so undeniable and so sad that like I physically couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I can't watch these animals grow up, and I'm like forcing them to be in this situation where they're being raised in captivity. And then I get to see how much they enjoy flying and how important it is to them. And then I'm taking it away from them. And I'm seeing not only it change their entire universe about how they're moving, because that's how birds move. It's just like they fly, and it'd be cutting off our legs. Like there's no equivalent other than that. Like that is their primary mode of transportation. So now they're having to relearn the world around them in what is now a very scary and intimidating way. And I compare it to like bursting a balloon. Like you have all this energy and ability to move. And then I felt like I was like popping the balloon and deflating all of the thing that made the bird what it was by trimming its wings.
Right.
And at that time, I was really fortunate because I had other people with me that were seeing and experiencing the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, my mom most of all, and I literally sat crying. I mean, I used to cry a lot more I'm almost crying now, but I was sitting in the room and I'm just crying. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. Like we have to come up with a different solution to this because this is not how things should be done anymore. And she was like, I agree 100%. Let's figure something else out. And so around that same time, like Maria was there and I don't think Diana was there. So probably Maria was one of the only ones that was with me when we made the change. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to get hurt more. I don't know if they're going to fight. I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is that I can't clip wings anymore of these babies that we're raising. We've got to come up with a different plan.
Right.
And So again, some of the reasons that we were originally doing it is because we wanted to have this like open, out of cage experience for the birds when they were at the store. So what one of the fears was, how can we have all these different species of all different sizes and ages out together at the same time and be fully flighted where they could fly around each other and do it in a way where they're not going to hurt each other. And it was really scary at first. And we did have like a small adjustment period, but it was pretty quick that we realized like they're really, really smart and they're not aggressive animals. They're just fearful little prey animals. And if they're put in a position where they feel vulnerable, if they have the opportunity to fly, they will choose to fly away instead of hunker down and get themselves hurt.
Right.
And while that's not like 100% every single time, and we still have to be careful and watchful and we have to supervise them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to keep themselves perfectly fine and safe.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we learned and we experienced really rapidly is that if you trust that a bird can learn how to fly and survive in the wilderness, they're going to learn how to fly and survive in a room. Like, the advantage to keeping them fully flighted was that they were able to start to learn how to flutter and land, how to turn really, really quickly. And now, if anybody comes into the store and what your experience has been, it's not only that, it's that they're able to do like multiple laps around the store and like bank and turn and like go up and go down like super rapidly. And they don't
learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So it's just been, it was something that, if you want to know why I'm so passionate about it, like that's why. It's because I've had the very unique privilege of seeing both sides start to finish. And I can tell you 100%, anybody that's listening, like the benefits of keeping them fully flighted so far outweigh any of the negatives that I encourage you to be open-minded through this conversation because you will see the benefits. And I really genuinely know that they are going to result in a better situation for your bird and for you.
Exactly. So my perspective of wing clipping, when I came to Parrot, it was kind of when I started to have, the hard conversations with myself about it. Cause I always worked with, well, at the museum, I worked with dead wild birds. So,
It's okay.
So I never saw wing clipping and I didn't think about it because it wasn't a thing. We were donated specimens that were, had gotten in unfortunate accidents and we'd prepare them for scientific study in our inventory. But then coming upon Parrot Stars, it was a whole actually working with live birds.
Yeah.
But it was a whole kind of new premise that applied to this kind of community that you did have to have talk about, because there's a lot of very old, ancient practices of clipping birds' wings in captivity. That was just what they did for literally thousands of years, all the way from ancient Greece till a few years ago. And I do just want to kind of highlight and give obviously you, but your mom credit too, especially because she's had a lot of experience in this business, and clipping wings was a standard thing all the way up until, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, very recently. Sometimes it's very difficult for anyone, not just your mom, to have practiced something for so long and then such a drastic change that kind of changes everything. So I that always is what I think about, because it's a good, I always just see it as like a good progress for the betterment of the birds. But on the wing clipping actual perspective, and as a biologist, I always think of it as like this, like your bird doesn't understand. Like when they hatch, parrots are still wild animals. they're not, a Chihuahua is born and will be a Chihuahua because that's what we have
bred them to
bred
do
them
for
to
thousands
do.
of years. Yeah.
And again, I know we always use dogs, not to go into the dog comparison, but it's easy to kind of relate. But these birds are still wild, and they don't understand that, like what you were saying, when they do first fledge, and it's that huge process that is natural to them as a part of their survival. And then all of a sudden that kind of not taken away, because it was never such a drastic where they're just immobile, but it was still kind of a detriment. They don't understand why. That's how I always think about it.
Yeah.
And so they don't know what they don't know, and it could really put a mental detriment on them that can result in behaviors in the future that, and again, not to put you at home on the spot, but you might not notice, and eventually you might, because over time these types of things can progress. And I guess we could kind of talk about that a little bit as the actual science, because these are studies that have been done by avian veterinarians showing what wing clipping can potentially result in a bird's overall health, physiology, and well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's their primary mode of transportation. And just because we are providing them with a modified environment in captivity where they have a cage that, yes, they can use their feet. They have really good feet for transportation too. They can climb and grip. That's not how they're typically moving in the wild. They use it because of the environment they live in and the problem solving that they have to do in the wild. But most of their time that a parrot is moving in the wild is via flight, not climbing.
Right.
So even though you're providing them with an enclosure that they can still technically be mobile in, the flight is still necessary for them to have a lot of the psychological and physical benefits that are going to keep them healthy.
Exactly.
So keeping your bird fully flighted has both mental and physiological benefits. So there are several articles that have been published that really have studied the bird's mental state and the physiological state that the wing trim impacts. So there is a association of avian veterinarians. People can Google them and research them. But basically, this organization is the group of certified avian vets that comes together and kind of sets best practices, shares research articles, and creates an environment where avian veterinarians can kind of learn from one another and share their informations, their philosophies, their points of view. So they recently put out, this is recent, August 19th of 2024, people. So this is not like Avery and I were saying, this is something that has been an ancient practice and is finally starting to become a cultural, systematic change that's happening in aviculture in the United States. So to the point where they needed to release an article about it. So we'll put a link in our show notes attaching each of these articles so people can kind of read for themselves. But basically, it's just a request for the avian veterinarians to think about the parrot welfare in terms of wing trimming. So if you're going to do it, understand what a wing trim is and how to do it. But think about it in terms of why we should or should not be doing it.
Yeah.
Is the wing trim really contributing to the bird's safety? Is the wing trim really contributing to the bird's trainability?
Right.
And I think what we're seeing is that more and more vets, bird owners, bird breeders and storefronts, and bird behaviorists are all starting to agree and advocate for the fact that having them trimmed does not result in a safer experience and life for their parrot. and it does not make the bird more trainable.
So I think I could be totally wrong with this, but this is what I've kind of gathered over my own research, but experience as well, is people get that idea that trimming will result in a more well-behaved bird or a more easily training bird or a less aggressive bird. Those same people, I think, are purchasing their birds from a very small breeder that, like, kind of how you started, has produces a clutch from their pairs of 6 birds. And then that person is working with, it's a mirror of what you were explaining. That person is working with just those 6 birds for months and months and months and months and months, hand feeding, raising, all this stuff. And then from the people's perspective, it's easy to kind of overlook those factors. And then the bird gets home, and it's like, okay, this is great. My bird has been clipped, and it's all it's already there. It comes down to ding, 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 positive reinforcement. It comes down to your own work at home. And we won't jump into that rabbit hole unless you want to. But I think that's just what I've gathered. And we just talked about that article. And I would like to read this part because I think it's just a little bit lengthy, so bear with me. But I do think it kind of summarizes especially how things are progressing, because this is a 2024 article. It's the topic is why wing trimming is performed. So this is the article posted by Unman and Pilney, both avian vets, titled Wing Trimming in Pet Parrots, Understanding Best Practices and Implications for this Welfare Issue, August 19th, 2024. And what I wanted to read was, quote, wing trims are commonly undertaken due to misconceptions about their necessity, desires to prevent the bird from escaping, safety concerns, fostering the human-animal bond in training efforts, and restricting access to certain home areas. While generally harmless with minimal handling required, the implications of wing trims such as decreased natural behaviors, potential weight gain, and muscle atrophy cannot be overlooked. Simply stated, flight is the most natural activity for birds and remains their only form of exercise.
Yes.
So I just want to read that because I think it does kind of sum up what we're getting at and what the community is starting to progress towards. And these are avian veterinarians saying this.
The thing that I encourage people to stay optimistic about is that there are, along with these changes in philosophy and our culture with parrot ownership, over time, there are going to be more resources available to people to understand how to address the concerns if they decide to keep their bird fully flighted. So I am grateful that we're kind of pioneering this. We're not the only ones. There are other people that are pioneering this just as hard as we are. Bird Tricks, Parrot Wizard. There's all these really phenomenal groups that are really advocating keeping their birds fully flighted. So we are not the only ones, but it's still something that people, or information and ideas that people kind of have to seek out. It's not just like the natural go-to response to owning a parrot. Still, almost everywhere you go, the natural go-to philosophy is trim the parrot. So it's going to change, and along with the change is going to come more resources and a better understanding of how to handle the safety concerns and the behavioral concerns. But to kind of go into the positive reinforcement training, but not in as much detail as we normally do. The benefit is that when you understand positive reinforcement training, you can train the bird not to go into places of the house that might be dangerous, or areas of the furniture that you don't want them to chew up and destroy. The positive reinforcement training is going to solve any kind of nippiness or favoritism that you might be experiencing towards one or multiple people in the household. As far as the safety concern, there are a lot of proactive things you as a pet owner could be doing to keep the birds safe that allow them to stay fully flighted in the house, but are not going to put them in a position where they're going to fly out the front door.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that the positive reinforcement training is going to solve.
And basically it just comes down to the discussion you have to have with yourself, whether you already have a parrot, but especially when you're looking to get a parrot, is that sometimes when people do want to like invite a new pet companion into their home, they want that, and you say it all the time, that like that instant gratification of experiencing these behaviors from your pet companion that you want, you know? But with parrots especially, this is something that you have to do. Like you have to train your bird. You cannot get frustrated because your baby wild bird is doing natural things. It's scared of you because that's how they are, and it's flying around the house because it's scary and they don't know. You know, it's something that you have to do.
Yep.
But going back, I think it is refreshing though. And again, I don't have that. I'm not super deep in the history of parrot aviculture. I'm still very new to this, but it is refreshing because we have a wonderful customer community. And even our new customers that come in, and we do talk about wing clipping in our send home process. And it's refreshing when a lot of people are like, you know, they say little things like, oh, good. Or like,
yeah, they're like, relieved that we keep them fully flighted.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. So, you know, we don't have to sit there and be like, this is why you really shouldn't. We'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I agree with you. I think because of the efforts of the vets, and I'm so grateful that they posted this article and that I now have the ability to like attach it not just to my own like perspective. Like this is many, many people that are agreeing on this. I think because people are also having this pressure put on them to research birds before they buy. And that's now becoming the expectation is that, hey, if I'm going to be getting a pet bird, I better do a little online research. Or a lot of places that are more maybe ethical is the right word, that have somebody that they know for certain has not done a single ounce of research leading up to the purchase of the bird is going to go tell them to do research. And what they're reading and hearing is that it's beneficial to keep them fully flighted. So it is very easy for us to have that open-ended conversation about keeping them fully flighted with the new people. I think it's more challenging at times to have the conversation about keeping birds fully flighted for people who have been doing it a long time.
Right.
And it's just, I think because people are genuinely trying to do a good job taking care of their bird. And that's the toughest thing for me is when I have to have these conversations with people. So, I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So we stopped clipping all of our babies at Parrot Stars.
Yeah, I don't think we said that before. That's important.
Okay.
I know you mentioned it in your story, but officially.
Okay, so, yeah,
zero.
We do not do it at all. And it has been that way for now a full 3 years. Like not a single baby bird has been clipped. So if you come into Parrot Stars, you're going to see a bunch of birds flying all around, and it's nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay. So we still were offering the wing trim as a service, though, at the store. And most of it was because it was kind of exhausting trying to talk people out of it and then having them absolutely freak out and be like, absolutely not. You have to trim my bird's wings. You have to do it. And so now we've learned how to have the conversation in a much more functional way. And we're prepping people for it when they're calling to make their grooming appointments. We're letting them know that we've moved away from doing the wing trimming service. We offer them proactively a conversation about why we do not recommend the wing trims and how to coach them on any of the concerns they might have about having a parrot be fully flighted in their home. What I found is that when we started being a little bit more proactive about our conversation and we started knowing, okay, it's going to be a hard conversation sometimes, but we've got to start doing it, and we've got to start explaining to people that they don't have to be doing this old ancient tradition anymore. What I was surprised by was how many people, when we started that conversation and explained to them how to keep their bird safe while fully flighted and how to train a fully flighted bird, how quickly they were like, oh, okay, that's fine. Don't keep the bird fully flighted. I was just doing the wing trim because that's what I was told I had to do.
Right. A lot of it's just standard. Like,
yeah,
they thought it was
they thought that they were supposed to be doing it. So that's been kind of a refreshing and happy surprise, is that when you do give people the opportunity to learn in a safe way, and we're not accusing them of doing something wrong, but rather offering them advice and solutions to what they think the issue may be, how open-minded they are about allowing the bird to have its most natural form of movement.
Yeah.
So that's been really nice and reassuring. And then when it comes to people who are very set in their ways, I think all we can do at that point is plant the seed.
Yeah.
And give them the information and let them do with it as they want.
Yeah.
So to break a little bit of the myths, and I think we are going to have a Mythbusters episode.
Oh my gosh, big spoiler. Yeah.
Sorry, Avery. It was Avery's idea to do a Mythbuster, so I shouldn't have spoiled it for you.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
Okay, so I think, though, we are going to at least do this one myth now, is that trimming the wings will stop your parrot from flying away. And I think that is a really important thing to address, because your parrot's wings being trimmed are not the reason it's going to stay with you when you walk outside. So what happens is when you trim your parrot's wings, especially from an early age, they will not learn, or they will lose the ability to fly up, fly down, fly fast, or just have any general confidence around flight in general. So if your bird ever gets outside and a big gust of wind comes underneath it and gets the momentum where the bird can zoom up into a tree, it is not going to have the flight sense enough to know that it should be flying in and out of the tree. So that's number one. Number two is when you have a bird that gets outside and it's clipped, and say it does get a huge jolt of adrenaline and the wind helps it get up into the tree. A parrot's survival instinct is to often not draw attention to itself when it's stressed out. So typically they'll go up into the tree and then they'll go quiet and they won't move. So that doesn't make it any easier to catch them or find them. So it usually results in the bird not being found and can make it really, really difficult to believe that the bird has survived. The other thing is if they are clipped and they get out and they move whatever distance it is to be out of eye shot and earshot of you, and they don't have their full capacity for flight, or they have not developed their full capacity of flight, either from the wing trim or just not having the muscle and the endurance, they will never be able to evade a predator. And that's the huge, huge thing that I'm so adamant about when people talk about wanting to have their wing trim done so that they can take their bird outside. It's like, okay, that's all fine and dandy. You can have these firm beliefs that you can walk outside with your parrot on a shoulder, and because the wings are trimmed, it should be okay. You cannot control the environment outside. And most of all, you cannot save it from a predator attacking it. And I don't know if people realize, like, unless they've experienced it for themselves, how ruthless the birds of prey here are, especially in Chicago, but throughout the entire continental U.S. Like,
in the world.
Yeah. These animals are out there surviving, and everything about your parrot reads prey animal to a predator.
It's like throwing a neon Post-it note in a coal mine.
Yes.
It's like...
It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And so, yes, theoretically, like we talk about putting birds in harnesses, within a 5-foot leash of your bird taking off if it's harnessed.
That's on you.
You would assume, a hawk isn't going to come down and grab it. But the minute your parrot goes any kind of distance beyond that, predators are really good at hiding. They're going to be watching, and they will be quick. So I've had an unfortunate experience about that in my past. So I've seen things that are scary. So, and I've heard horror stories of people's birds getting chased by hawks.
We get phone calls about it all the time.
All the time.
So work.
And people, the thing about it is that 99% of these phone calls that we get and these horror stories that we hear are people with clipped birds.
Yeah.
It's not the fully flighted, unclipped birds that people are having these accidents with.
Yeah.
It's the clipped birds that are giving the owner a false sense of security, and that's when the accidents are happening. So just don't get caught up in the fact that, yes, technically your bird isn't going to maybe be able to fly a mile away from you, but you'd be shocked how even a fully clipped bird, how little distance it takes for a predator to come down and get it, or for it to just have enough adrenaline or wind underneath it to get out of eyesight and earshot of you.
I will emphasize that it's a type of thing when you talk about and people are like, that's ridiculous. Like they have this disconnect from nature, especially in this situation. Like, that's ridiculous. A bird of prey is never going to come down in my backyard. Like, they're not around. I only see one a month. Well, that's because you're not looking. Because I'll say as I bird, every single time I go out to bird, I see at least 4 red-tailed hawks and a couple coopers, and they're always just sitting there watching. And they can see for freaking a long way away.
Yes.
So it's one of those realities that you're not immune to. Everybody's out there.
Yep.
But the thing of it is I don't want to keep dwelling on it, but it is it's just frustrating because people, somebody came in one time. They said, I clip my bird. We're out in the yard all the time. It's great. But every time he flies away, he falls on the ground. I just go up and pick him up and it's all good. I'm like, okay, every time you go outside, your bird flies away from you. And it's absolutely terrified and has no idea what's going on because it just falls on the ground.
Yep.
Think about it. That might be a practice that you're used to and are numb to now because that's just what you've always done. But you think about your bird, what is going through their mind.
How vulnerable.
That's your bird is vulnerable. Your bird is terrified. Your bird is flying away every time it goes outside for a reason, and then it has no idea why it can't go. Yeah. I
think that would be
not to keep beating
the
bush here.
I mean, sometimes some people need to hear this stuff, and maybe nobody's ever talked to them in this way. So the thing that I'd encourage people to do, and again, it goes back to humans are complex animals, and it's really easy for a lot of people to not necessarily put themselves in their bird's shoes to know or to be able to have the capacity to see what you're talking about, to feel the emotion that they're feeling. Some humans just lack that ability. But I think generally most people that want a pet and have a pet probably do have empathy. That's why they're looking for that external companionship. And so if you do have that animal living in your home and you got it because you wanted to have this rewarding experience, but you're putting it in positions where it feels a really huge sense of unhappiness or instability or fear, that's not benefiting you as the owner. It's not going to result in a fulfilling life for your companion parrot where it's going to be motivated to have all these personality traits that you'd otherwise maybe enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So just like stop and like really take a moment to observe your bird's body language.
Yeah.
And again, maybe if they were clipped from a young age, they don't know any better, but that still isn't maybe enough of a reason to just accept it for what it is. Because maybe if they do regain that ability to fly, you will get to see a huge shift in their personality.
Yeah.
And so that's, the escaping outside is just, it's a myth. It just does not stop them from flying away.
And another really common one, again, not to keep beating it around, but is the whole, and it is more of kind of a tricky topic about what we're talking about, but like the whole biting. And that could be a whole nother. I don't mean to
roll my eyes, people, but
that could be a whole nother episode. But people, how do I want to word it? How do I want to organize? So people experience. I was
just going to suggest maybe you like use it in terms of like the prey responses. That's
what I was getting at.
Okay.
And so people that do clip their birds do report to us because we get calls about it. Like, why isn't my bird biting me? And then we ask, and the bird's been clipped.
Mm-hmm.
It is that it's kind of like clipping your bird. And then you expect your bird to do certain behaviors because you clipped them, but you're kind of trying to jump over the whole desensitization. You're trying to jump over the whole training process, the bonding process, the whole, I can handle my bird because it can't fly away. Mm-hmm. But then you didn't use any of that time that you were supposed to be getting to know your bird's personality via the training to understand the body language. And so you're handling a bird that doesn't want to be handled, but that's his only thing to do because he can't fly away.
Yeah.
Or even if you do a mild wing clip, he doesn't have the confidence to fly away because maybe he tried to once and just fell on the floor and now he doesn't want to anymore, And then your bird's not mean. Your bird doesn't hate you. Your bird's not territorial. It's not aggressive. He's just trying to defend his little itty-bitty self from a very giant, scary human that you are. So it's always like, well, I don't know. That's just what I was getting at. It is the prey response. It's the predator-prey response that you jumped over.
Yeah. I think we talked about it in a past episode when we talked about what a parrot is and the training about them being prey animals. And any animal on the planet really is going to respond to a stimulus where when they experience any kind of stressor, they're going to have a fight, flight, or freeze. So, and those are common terms. Fight or flight is used all the time, very casually in conversation with people, but it's fight, flight, or freeze. Like we always sometimes leave out the freeze, and that's kind of been a more recent development as a response to scary things. But quite literally in the world of parrots, they are prey animals. So their instinct to fight is not nearly as intense as a predator's is going to be.
Yeah.
But even a predator that feels scared is almost always going to choose to flee an experience that's making them stressed out rather than rather than fight. Because fighting could result in injury. It could result in death. I mean, it's not going to contribute to the chance that they're going to survive and pass their genetics along. It's not the most useful survival technique.
Parrots don't have the means to fight.
Yes.
If a parrot is so close that it has to use his beak to fight, it's already a goner in the wild. Like, it's not.
Is his last resort.
Yeah.
100% of the time. So almost always a parrot's response to a stressful situation. And keep in mind, people, you are a stressful situation, whether you think you are or not. You as a predator coming into their little space is scary. And it takes a long time for a bird to not feel threatened by you. Mm-hmm. Whether you are gentle and nice, doesn't matter. It takes a long time for them to learn that. But if you take away their ability to fly away from a situation that's stressing them out in any way, like whatever the stressor is, you are only leaving them with those two remaining options: to freeze or to fight. And people often misinterpret, like what you're mentioning, the freeze as like, oh, the bird is accepting me. It's forced.
That's a good way to put it.
It's forced complacency. Like they aren't choosing to be with you. They just feel in that moment, okay, this is an automatic response. I better stay still and just hold on and sit and don't move. And now the bird is sitting on your finger, but not because it wants to be there. It just has to be there. And maybe, okay, it didn't go down and bite you, but it did not mean that it was a positive experience for the bird. So then the last resort is the fight.
Especially if you're frozen bird, you put on your shoulder, and then when you're not looking, it's an opportunity. He's gonna get you. It's not his fault. He's just scared. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, my bird hates me because he bites me. You know?
Like, no.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's just a connection that we hear from a lot of people. Yeah. So you're putting a very scared bird on your shoulder that when you're not looking at it with your eyes is going to be like, this is my chance to get the heck out of here. And it's going to get you and then jump off or freeze again.
Yeah. And then to that same note, sometimes what we hear, and again, this is a little bit myth. Okay. So the myth of safety outdoors, the myth of clipping your wings makes the bird more trainable. It doesn't. The other myth is like, okay, trimming the wings is going to stop the bird from flying at my husband and biting him, because we've experienced that. The last time we let the feathers grow back in, the bird was flying around the house, biting people, attacking people. Guys, that is still a form of self-defense. These are not predatory animals that are out to kill to survive. If they are doing that behavior, it is a fear-based response, and it was probably reinforced. So, yes. So if that experience happened, whatever the result of that experience was, that bird interpreted it as it achieved something by doing that behavior.
Yeah.
So
laughing or
dramatic reaction, right. Or maybe the bird was totally overstimulated, exhausted, hungry, and the bird wanted to go back to its cage where it could rest and eat and feel a sense of safety. And it flew off, bit somebody because it was stressed out, and then that person shoved it back in the cage. Well, now we just taught the bird, like, hey, anytime you want to go back to your sense of security, your place to eat, your place to rest, you got to fly off and really get into somebody's face and tell them you're not okay in order to get what you want.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is to take an honest assessment of the individuals in your house and how they're acting towards the bird. If that person isn't actively engaging in positive reinforcement training, if that person is mean to other people in the house and the bird is seeing that and hearing that all the time, if that person is teasing or acting in an obnoxious way to the bird, have an honest assessment of how that person is acting towards the bird. And again, that's not enough of a reason that the bird shouldn't be able to fly because the person in the house is the issue. It's not the bird's issue. It's the human
it's usually always is.
So
usually always is.
And okay, so again, we want to make sure people understand that there's a solution, a far better solution to any behavioral obstacles you're experiencing than clipping the wings.
Yeah.
It's never going to solve the problem. It's just going to like delay the problem from getting worse.
Right.
Or it will cause the problem to even get worse sometimes. But all you're doing is you're damaging their physical and mental health in the process. For your convenience, you're creating a detriment to the bird.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say, I think, earlier. Like, you're trying to jump through hoops to get, it's that instant gratification. You know, you're trying to skip over all these very crucial things to achieve your little baby bird to step up. Well, you will, you know, but you got to do what you need to do before you get there.
Yeah, and I think too, if you don't believe us, you can come to the store and you can hold some of the birds that have been fully flighted their whole life and step up. So like the palm has never been clipped. The Olive is the best example. She's never been clipped. She's fully flighted, has been, and she steps up instantly for you.
Everybody.
So it's, again, it's not, and in those same regards, those are two birds that we trust fully to never feel that they have to use their beak to defend themselves.
Yeah.
They just don't, because they don't know that that's even something that would result in a benefited, like a beneficial way. It's not become a learned behavior.
And it becomes that way from discipline, because like we'll never push. Like Olive is the most wonderful bird in the world, but if she doesn't want to, then we were not gonna like little Wink. Little Wink, the sweetest creature on the face of the planet. But if he doesn't want to step up, he'll let you.
He'll tell you, yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, well, that's all right. We'll just. He does that little.
He's like,
I shouldn't laugh because he's probably overstimulated, but he's we won't ever force one of our birds.
If you're looking for the opportunities for the bird to communicate before a nip or a bite, they're there. You just have to be willing to see them.
Yeah, that's the truth, and it's something you have to learn, and you learn that through the time you take to train your bird.
And people talk about that when they talk about dog training all the time. Like there are all those little behavioral subtleties that you can see if you're looking for them to stop a behavior before it happens.
Yeah.
And gives you also the opportunity to reward and know when to reward the right behaviors. So even though parrots maybe aren't as expressive, they don't have like the eyebrow features, they don't have the ability to move their facial expressions like a dog does, there still are physical movements that they make to tell you they're uncomfortable. You just have to be willing to see them. And there, like I said, that kind of goes back to what I'm saying. The resources and the material for people to learn those subtleties will become more available over time. So if you're like, okay, how do I know when my bird is trying to communicate that they're uncomfortable? Eventually, those things will become more available to you. There'll be more videos posted. There'll be more educational content. It'll become a part of our culture a little bit more than it is now, but it just takes leaving your bird maybe alone.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
watching
it's just practice, really. Because practice makes permanent. It doesn't make perfect. And so with the training, it is a trial and error, but it's worth it to put your bird in, the best space possible. You're never putting your bird in a position where he has to freeze, or most certainly never have to, or even flight. Get to a position where your bird doesn't need to fly away.
Yeah.
Even though he has the ability to, and he's healthy enough to do that and continue to fly as long as he wants to. But that's what the training. And so when you're looking to get a bird, or if you already have a bird, spend the time researching not like certain species dispositions or certain species demeanors or behaviors. Spend the time researching. I already mentioned this in a previous episode, but research positive reinforcement training
It's a better use of your time.
And stuff like this, like what we're talking about.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to help you.
Yeah, and I think the last little thing with the last little myth is about the safety inside the home, because idea that your bird is going to not have the ability to fly up into the ceiling fan or fly into the kitchen when you're cooking or hit a window. I touched on it before, but if you allow them to fly from a young age into fledge, they're going to learn to turn before they hit the window. They're going to learn to slow down, or they're going to, I don't want to freak people out, they're going to hit the window and then learn not to hit it again. Like,
yeah, it is what it is.
You might experience it. So I don't want people to always like be in this state of like severe panic. And yes, you do have to be careful. Like if that could cause injury for sure. Yeah. But most of the time it's not going to, and they learn really, really, really stinking fast. So just keep an open mind about, or trust your bird's really, really smart brain to figure out how to navigate your space confidently. And you can go back to other episodes about the positive reinforcement training, and I'm sure over time we'll have even more specific positive reinforcement training episodes about like stationing. You teach your bird where it's allowed to go in the house. Like it's taken me, I mean, these parrotlets are now almost 3 years old. They will now fly the little area around the island and go back to their cages. And that has taken a long time for them to learn, but they've learned to go back. Like they don't just like randomly fly and land anymore. Yeah. They've been reinforced enough. I'll put their little treats up there that they go and they do their zoomies and then they go back. So it's taken, and I'm not probably doing it as much as I should be, but it's taken 3 years to get there. It's not overnight, but eventually they do learn that if you reward them for going to specific areas, they're going to be incentivized to go to only those areas. Yeah. So create the boundaries early and then be ready to reinforce them.
Yeah, and parrots don't only mimic speech, they'll mimic your actions too. Mm-hmm. So, like if you are scared about those household hazards, like when your bird steps up on you and is comfortable doing so, go show them the window or tap on it. Press your hand against it.
Show them there's a barrier.
Don't fly into this because there's something there. And believe it or not, you'd be surprised
how quickly they learn. Yep. Give them credit because they will figure it out really quickly. They aren't going to naturally understand that there's a barrier, but they will learn that there is a barrier there.
That's right.
They can't see the glass, but they will figure out that it's there, which is, guys, human glass is like a really complex thing to comprehend.
I don't even know how it's made.
It's something we take for granted, but to be able to like look through something and know that there's something in between you and something on the other side of the window, that's a pretty complex thing to comprehend. Yeah. But parrots eventually get it.
It's like 3,000 degree sand. I'm like, come on.
So they can learn it and figure it out. Okay, so the last little thing that I wanted to talk about is just the physiological element. So we talked about like my personal perspective on the mental health and welfare of the bird. We talked about all the behavioral stuff.
Oh yeah,
and the safety, but just from a physiological standpoint of maintaining your bird's physical health throughout its life, flight is a major contributing factor to their long-term health.
Of course.
It contributes to their exercise, and in the same way that they tell us all day long how exercise benefits humans, it is proven that exercise benefits parrots in the exact same way. Mm-hmm. So it has mental health benefits, exercising and moving naturally. But then most importantly, the exercise helps with the correct muscle and strength building that is natural to the bird.
Oh, yeah.
So it develops the right muscles in the right spots in their body. Mm-hmm. And it's not overusing one muscle group over the other. It helps create a more balanced muscular skeletal system in their body. Mm-hmm. And then it helps with their overall weight fluctuations. So it stops and prevents them from having excessive weight gain. In the same way we understand overall bone health in humans, they've proven that it helps parrots and birds as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's absolutely necessary for your bird's health, period. I mean, it's important to understand why, though. I mean, birds are completely different from mammals. And so they burn energy at a rate that we can't. If we burned as much energy as a bird does just sitting down, we would literally combust. Like we would just blow up and die. But yeah, I'll say so I watched this documentary, and it may or not be true. There's no source that the lecturer told me, but he does have a PhD in ornithology, so I don't know. It must be true. But he said that what did he say? He said if birds were to burn like gasoline instead of energy he was specifically talking about migration, because birds undergo a physiological difference during migration seasons, but it's the same principle. Birds would burn over 700 miles to the gallon of gas. Like, that's how efficient they are and how much, like, that's their metabolism works
for flight.
And so it's crucial for overall health. If you deprive them of that, you're going to run into a lot of physical detriments that, quite frankly, is going to kind of decrease your bird's lifespan.
Yeah, and I think we can break that down even a little bit more. Basically, when you're eating food, you're eating calories that are going to be turned into energy. And that energy is what allows all of the chemical reactions to happen to allow for movement and digestion and rest and all of these things. So parrots specifically, but all birds in general, are designed to be motivated to eat, and their instinct is to be consuming food all day long. Yeah. Because in the wild, their instinct would be eat food all day long so that you can have enough energy to fly. And if in captivity we are removing the way for them to release that energy from their body, they're taking in all of this food and all these calories and not doing anything with them.
Yeah, it's a circle. It's a cycle, yeah.
Yeah, so even if you do a really great job, and we've talked about it with nutrition in the past, of portioning the food and making sure the food is dynamic and healthy, it's still not going to have the other half of the equation. It still needs that energy output in order for their body to be metabolizing the food the way that nature has designed them to do for millions of years.
Yeah, flight takes a crap ton of energy. Even though they've been doing it for millions and millions of years, it's still like, it takes a lot.
Yes.
Even for the little guys. So, yeah.
Yes, it's huge, huge, huge for proper weight. And just like with people, extra weight is going to tax the body more. It's going to make their heart work harder. Their liver is going to have to work harder. All of their organs are going to be more stressed.
You do not want a parrot's bones to be brittle because of weight.
And that's the other thing, is that the muscle toning and the strength that they gain in conditioned flight helps their bones stay stronger. So they're not putting pressure and using their bones improperly. Like, it's more balanced throughout their body.
Definitely.
So it's going to help create a more balanced bone use and muscle use.
Yeah.
You're going to see the negative results if you're modifying their life to a point where their body is no longer moving in the way that it was like designed to through evolution for all these millions of years. So
exactly.
Again, I don't want people to look at this like, oh my God, I've been clipping my bird and it might never fly. To be truthful with you, it might never fly. You might have unfortunately lost the ability for them to be strong enough or have the confidence to fly. But it's not the reason to not try.
Yeah.
And I saw a really great video. There was a phenomenal, I think it was a zoo. I'm like 99% sure it was the zoo that had a previously clipped and blue and gold macaw that had not flown. And it took a long time, years of positive reinforcement training. they were able to strengthen the muscles enough and create enough confidence in the bird that they were able to get it to fly across the room.
That's really cool.
So it's not impossible. And this was like it's truthful that the larger the bird is, the more it's been clipped, and the older it is, and the more time it's had without flight, the less likely it's going to be to ever fly.
Yeah.
Littler birds, it's a little bit, you get a little bit more of a window for them to relearn or to quickly develop those muscles back.
Right.
So that was a great example and a great video because it's like one of the largest species of parrots, one that you'd be tempted to feel discouraged about the chance that it might ever fly again. And through patience and positive reinforcement training, they were able to get it to fly again. So it's never too late. I mean, you might want to like try to really think about things sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to get totally discouraged that they've done irreparable damage to their bird by having it clipped in the past.
It's stuff you can do at home. Just because there's a zoo professional doesn't mean that you can't do it. A couple came in the store just on Sunday and had inherited a green wing, and they're teaching it to fly, and they've progressed a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that you can work with at home. It's really cool.
So I think that gave us an opportunity to really deep dive like we've wanted to into like where the change that I've undergone, where we sit as a store and what our philosophy is, and then kind of myth busting a little bit about why people should or should not be doing it. So I guess in summary, we really encourage our listeners to not do it in general. That's our stance. Like, just don't clip the wings. But if you're in a position where you feel that makes you feel uncomfortable or you're unsure, our request is that you start to research it. Start to really take it upon yourself to learn a little bit more about why it's been done in the past, what the different solutions are and ways to prevent or encourage parrot safety with having a fully flighted bird. There's a lot of really good resources, and more will continue to be shared as time goes on. So in the show notes, we will have the links to the different articles that we mentioned today and the sources for the avian vets that have contributed to this kind of welfare change. And we're always happy to share more information. I mean, again, we're trying to have this be, we already went over on time. So like we're trying to like have really complex conversations that are really detailed in short amount of time. But you can always come to us for more information in the future at Parrot Stars. So
yeah. And it is, like we said earlier, it is a very honestly recent thing that has just been coming up in the world of agriculture with parrots. And so, a lot of people still do clip. And it wasn't so much as like, we called out a lot of specific instances. It's never like calling you out or an attack, especially. Attack is a harsh word, but it's just something that you can learn about and understand why we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that wraps up our conversation about wing clipping and keeping birds fully flighted. So as always, thank you so much for listening. Please like, rate, review, download all that good stuff if you liked it, because that's really helps us grow. And that's our main priority, is just to keep putting parrot information out there, because there seems to be a little that's already exists, but that's okay. I just blabbering on. But thank you so much. And as always,
be kind to your parrot and it will be kind to you.